Då välkomnar vi Ivo Mönnik, vd på Sensys Gatso, till nästa presentation. Och jag kommer nu gå över till engelska då Ivo inte pratar svenska. Ivo, a warm welcome to Carnegies Micro and Small Cap Day. Please go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Örjan. I think he explained that I'm talking to you in English. My Swedish is not that good, so let's take it that way. Questions can be afterwards in Swedish and will be translated, of course. I'm going to talk to you about Sensys Gatso Group. Most of you probably know it from whenever you received a citation in your mailbox, which is actually sent by the equipment created by us. I will talk about the group, Sensys Gatso, in a snapshot, and then some financials, our road to success, and a business update, and then an outlook and the investor case. So this is actually the group in a snapshot. It's actually existing of two companies. One is the Gatsometer, the original inventor of automated traffic enforcement in the world, established in actually 1958. And then there is the Sensys Traffic, which probably all you know. It's a Swedish company that was the technology provider to the Swedish government to create what we call Vision Zero, meaning zero fatalities in traffic. These two companies were combined in 2015 to create Sensys Gatso Group. We are operating in 7 countries globally with 300 employees. We have delivered more than 50,000 systems across the world. And we have an ambition. The ambition is to become a 1 billion Swedish krona company. 600 million of that is TRaaS, recurring revenue, and our EBITDA or profitability should be north of 15%. And that all should be achieved by 2025. We're on the road to get there. You see the numbers here. So you see the number in 2017, 300 million and a negative profit, a loss. And then up to 2023, we are doing quite well with 624 million and an EBITDA of 85. So we're on track on achieving our ambition. So I don't expect you to read this. It's too much detail and it's too small. But it gives you the picture of the time when this was Sensys, right? And a listed company trying to build a business. We had business in Sweden and we had some business in the Middle East, but it was difficult. In 2015, the acquisition of Gatsometer took place, and you can see what happened next. It's actually the company is growing steadily, so in a very positive way. So I think that's important to note on this chart. The other thing is important for you as mostly Swedish investors to note is that we do a lot in automated traffic enforcement. The one you know is this one, right? And the only thing we do in traffic enforcement in Sweden is fixed speed enforcement. That's the only thing we do. But speed enforcement can also be section control, meaning you measure the average speed over length of road. It can also be portable speed enforcement. And then there's other stuff we do. We do red light enforcement, so crossing a red light, you get fined. And we do also environmental zones. We do schools, speed enforcement, and a lot more. On the far right-hand side is the model we use in the United States. Here we do everything. I'm not going to go into detail on this slide, but it's important for you to understand how we operate the business in the United States when I get there. Our purpose. Why do I want to work for this company? And why should you maybe also invest in this company? This company can make a difference. So every year, 1.3 million people die in traffic. And the estimation is that between 20 and 50 million people get severely damaged, injured. And it's all related to behavior. Not wearing a seatbelt, not respecting the speed limits, crossing a red light. All these kinds of things are behavioral. And with our automated enforcement systems, we can actually change that. We can actually save lives. Looking at the numbers, these are the Q3 numbers. Revenue was down. We're not too worried about that because it's just one quarter. I'll get back to that. TRaaS is up. TRaaS is our recurring business. That's the most important part of our business. That's up by 14%. Margin is relatively stable, 37%, and the EBIT is positive at 1. Looking at year to date, revenue is up 8%. The recurring business is up 5%. Margin at 39 and an EBIT of 8. And then we look at 12 months rolling, which I think is the more important part of our business what does this look longer term? And then we go to this slide here, you can see that really this is a long-term business to look at. Don't look at it from a quarter-to-quarter base, look at it in the long run. Why is that? We have very long contracts. Our contracts with customers are typically 5 years, 10 years, or even longer. And then these contracts get renewed, like 2 years or another 5 years. So a quarter which is maybe a little bit lower is not affecting our long-term ambition at all. So this is the way to look at it from a long-term perspective. On the bottom side in the middle of the graph here is where we demonstrate our available cash. We raise capital to fund our growth plans in the United States. So we raised a bond of 30 million, and we need that to be able to grow in the United States mostly. What's important that is that in these numbers, we don't see an effect yet of 2 large orders which came in 2022. One is Trafikverket, 850 million, the largest order in the industry, yet to start, right? And then there is the order in the Netherlands of 400 million. Here we started the rollout, but also in an initial phase. So this combined is a 1.25 billion backlog, of which only 88% or 12% has been realized at this point in time. So there's a lot of this revenue still to come in the future. So road to results. We're operating in a relevant and growing market. We have a clear vision, moving from hardware to software, and we have 4 focused strategies, and we execute that with a focused, P&L focused team. So this is the most fundamental growth driver, which is fatalities in traffic. You can see it's going up. And actually, it's the most important thing here is that it's affecting mostly young people. And young people is where the society invests in. This is also the reason why Trafikverket, or the Swedish government, came up with Vision Zero. Vision Zero means get the fatalities down to 0, because young people die in traffic. So, and it's also costing the society money. Up to 3% of gross domestic product is caused by just traffic incidents or fatalities. What you see on the right-hand side is that countries where there's high investments in infrastructure related to automated traffic enforcement, they have the lowest fatalities in traffic. So these are fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. What stands out here is the United States. We could argue a developed country, but it ranks between Mexico and India if it relates to fatalities in traffic. Not a good position to be, I would say. So this is also why the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are so important to us, because in these goals, there are 17 of them, 2 apply to us. The one in the middle, up number 3, there is one specific target there, 3.6, which says that by 2030, the number of fatalities in traffic should come down by 50%. And we just saw it's actually going up. And that creates a lot of urgency with not only the United States, but also with developing countries, like for instance in Ghana and in Saudi Arabia, where we have recently launched business. So that's why our market as such is growing. So the growth is projected by 2032 to be north of 10% per year annually. And it's now at roughly 4 billion. And this is all in US dollars, right? We look at that market as being 1.25 billion is our market, our addressable market. Why is that? Because we're not including markets like India or China as an example, and many markets in other places in the world also not. And we're only focusing on the automated traffic enforcement part of the business, so not on the hardware, right? Looking at us versus the competition, what is important to note here, we're the only pure automated traffic enforcement player in the world. That's what we do. We're not part of a group and a subdivision. We have a global setting instead of just one particular area, and we can do everything. So we have all the different automated traffic enforcement solutions in our portfolio. Then our vision basically is to move from equipment and maintenance thereof towards a service and software company. That's what we're aiming for. And we do that with 4 focused strategies. One is surrounded by around the flexible hardware and scalable software. The second one is to expand in the United States with traffic enforcement as a service, entry in new markets also with that same model, and extend our service scope in existing markets to realize our ambition, which you see on the right-hand side and which I already explained to you. Now looking at these different focused strategies, flexible hardware, scalable software, there's three software elements I should say to that. One is Flux, which is our sensor platform. I'll come back to that more in detail later on. That feeds into Pulse, which is data analytics, and that feeds into a back office software where we basically send out the citations to the customer. So look at it as this is the pole, right? The camera. This is the part where the evidence package is created, and that then feeds into a back office where the citation is sent to the customer. And obviously, if we move along the line here from equipment manufacturing to ultimately data ownership, with using our platforms, in essence, the value increases and the EBITDA will also increase over time. So this is what we're doing. This is kind of important because this is our new platform, Flux. And I already talked about it a little bit, but Flux is embedded software see it as an operating system maybe on your telephone. So that operating system sits on a system box which is inside a box together with a camera and a flash. And what this allows us to do is to change the flash, change the camera in a very efficient way, in a very effective way. And then it allows us also to come with multiple executions in a fast and cheap manner. So you can see the same software allows us to have a fixed system where we can do a lot of different things with. This is a gantry system. That same system then goes into a car, or can also be put on a tripod. Or as you see on the far right hand side, it's also the same software that is introduced in the new execution of traffic fairgate. Okay. Then the second one is expansion in the United States with TRAS. Top right, you see the Europe, where the fatalities in traffic are low. And I already mentioned that the United States is not doing that well. You can see it on this chart here. Here you can see the states in which traffic enforcement is allowed. So here, speed and red light would be the dark ones. Red light only is these, and speed is only that. Many of those there is no speed or red light enforcement allowed. Just take Mississippi, there's nothing allowed. And you can see the traffic fatalities in Mississippi are rather high. So there is a relation. So only 24 states allow for automated traffic enforcement. We have identified within these states 1,000 cities. We're targeting only 100 cities, and we are currently only in 45 cities. So you can imagine the upside potential for us is huge. And there's momentum going in the market because states like Florida, California, Connecticut are opening up now for automated traffic enforcement, which is a very good thing. Iowa, on the other hand, there are some changes in legislation there. I'll talk about it a bit later. So this is our situation in the United States. So we are in basically only in 12 states out of the 24, and we only have 45 cities, or 46, I should say. But we're doing well. Only recently we signed 13 new contracts, of which 6 complete new cities. So this is a really good track record for us going forward. And most importantly, if you look at our order intake, most of the order intake is coming from signings of new contracts in the United States. This is kind of important. How does it work in the United States? Very different from most of the other countries, if not all of the other countries. Because in the United States, the whole process is outsourced by the government to commercial parties like us. Now, what does that mean? We actually have a CapEx investment. We own the equipment. It's ours. We install the equipment and maintain the equipment. That's cost on our side. Then we load software on the equipment, our Pulse and Cilium software. And we start then, before we go and issue citations, we send out warnings. That is important to get the support from the general public, right? That is a cost to us because there's no return on that investment. And then when we go into operation, we send out the system actually generates events, and we have operators. You see them top right, and they judge that with the help of software, of course, whether an event is actually a citation. If that's the case, then there is going to be a police officer, and that police officer is saying yes, 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 because we have done the pre-verification, and they will say, this is okay. And then once that is approved, legally approved, we send out the citations, we collect the funds, and we split the funds between the city and ourselves. That's a business process outsourcing model. And it's rather interesting financially. Okay, so this is our claim to fame. We do the work, you keep control. Okay, why can we grow there? Well, first of all, I think it's a different market from any other market. In many of the markets, you have to wait for a tender to come out, and then you subscribe to the tender. Not so in the US. It will be also for the bigger cities, but for smaller cities, for instance, you can go to a city and present them a business case explaining what the effect will be of this program on fatalities in their city, but also the budgetary impact for them. So this is how we do it. Well, as I said before, the total addressable market is 14,000. We have focused a market of 1,000. I would be really happy if we would go from 46 cities to 100 cities in a couple of years from now. It would give us a fantastic financial position. So we are successful with smaller cities. We can carry that on also to new cities. And we have a new management in place with new salespeople and with new general management. And we raised the capital to fund this investment. So we're in a good spot in the United States. I will be short on this because everything that starts in the US will over time carry on into other markets. This is Australia. They're starting here now. So we're not doing everything in Australia, but we do. They use our software. We own the equipment. We do the pre-judification of it, and then in the end they do the last part of it. So they're sending out the citation. We're not doing that, but it could be a logical next step for the Australian market. Then looking at the fourth focus strategy, which is extend the service scope in existing markets. We signed big contracts in Sweden, 850 million. 3 contracts in the Netherlands worth altogether, 550 million, and we did sell 1,200 in-vehicle systems in Saudi. The good thing about our business is that the only party that can maintain this is us, or trained partners of ours. But this is not a business that can be maintained by any third party. So if we sign a contract for equipment, it's very logical. We also get the service and maintenance part thereof. So of the contract in Sweden, 40% of it would be service and maintenance, which is a recurring business for us, so rather important. In Holland, it would be around 50%. Then quickly on the business, we talked about the US already, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I think what's important is why we win. Long-standing experience, very good customer relationships. Our technology is appreciated, and we have a very good sales team, and that helps. And the momentum is there with new states opening up. So we signed contracts in Florida and in Connecticut lately. So good stuff happening in the US. Okay, there's also something we need to deal with, I would say. There's changes in Iowa, where the government has decided to imply a legal framework for automated traffic enforcement. It was not in place. So cities were doing whatever they liked, to put it broadly. So this is, and now there is going to be rules around the speed thresholds, about the maximum fines, and where you can actually put these poles up. Now there has been some discussion about whether these locations are the right ones, and unfortunately we were caught by surprise. I would say our cities, our customer were caught by surprise that this was rather limited. So we're now working with appeal processes to change that, and we also will have a mitigation program in place to deal with this going forward. On the backlog in Sweden and the Netherlands, this is important to understand that, I think I already mentioned it, but this is a huge program. Both of them are really, really big, and they set the foundation for many, many years in the future. And they actually support our organizations in a very positive way. So only 12% of that 1.25 billion has only been delivered to the market up until now. Tahacom, Saudi Arabia, we all know that it's it's highly developing at this point in time. So this is something where I can imagine a lot will happen in the future. We have signed several agreements with them, and we can now see that we are an established partner with them. We have all the agreements in place, and we have the technical solutions in place as well. So you could potentially expect something to come out of that region. Ghana, very short. This is a greenfield operation where we'll imply the same program as we've done in the United States. And this is great because the fatalities in Ghana are huge. 3% of the population dies in traffic, just imagine. If we start this and we can really make a difference, then I think we could all be proud of being part of this company. 2 more slides, a balanced revenue distribution. The past was Sweden predominantly and a little bit in the Middle East. Look at the distribution right now. So we're in 70 countries and successfully implementing new solutions in new markets. Also equally important, we have a European supply chain. So it means that COVID has not affected us. The blockage of the Suez Canal has not affected us. The wars in the Middle East, in Ukraine, have not affected us. So I think it's based on this particular situation we have. And then looking at the outlook, and the order intake was somewhat slow this quarter, but look at the order intake here. This is predominantly from the United States. And that creates that trust momentum, which will only continue going forward. And then looking at the outlook in numbers, we're delivering sustainable, profitable growth in the future. Why should you invest? It's the leading global player in traffic enforcement solutions in a relevant, very relevant and growing market. Focus strategies, mostly focused on growing in the United States. And we have a sustained financial business run, and we have the products and solutions there for a safer and more sustainable world. Okay, thank you. Marianne.
Thank you, Ivo. So you touched upon it a little bit, but could you try to really condense what is the actual difference between the US and the European markets, given that you have such a strong focus there?
Maybe I could just look at how we do it in Sweden. In Sweden, we deliver equipment, hardware, with software installed on it, and we maintain it on behalf of Trafikverket. All the other stuff they are doing. So they are. We can't even get into the system. We don't know anything about it, about the data that's coming from these polls. So they're sending out the citations and control all of that. In the US, we do all of the stuff we're doing that Trafikverket and the police is actually doing here as well. So that's in essence the difference.
Okay. Another question. You have mentioned, you talked a lot about the big order to Trafikverket. In your view, which factors separated you from the competition there?
There's been a relationship for 37 years, so we understand that customer. And I think that's very essential in our business, not only for Trafikverket, but the in-depth understanding of what the need of a customer is made the difference. So we know, for instance, that the image quality is extremely important. So our technology is people, the developers, made a lot of effort in creating the best possible picture because that would give us the highest ratings in the tender, and that's why we won.
Okay. You also invested a lot, as you mentioned, substantial amounts in your software development over the last years. What is your aim with all this? What do you expect to achieve from all these investments in software?
Well, as I said in the beginning, our vision is to move from a hardware and just a maintenance company into a software and services company. So software is the most essential part of the company going forward, and software needs to be maintained, and new features need to be added to become flexible and efficient going forward.
And the final question, you touch upon it, you raised a bond issue. It's actually 30 million euros, but a little more than 300 million Swedish crowns. How will you allocate this capital, and what's the purpose?
Well, 2 things. One, we see growth and larger contracts coming to us that requires working capital. We don't want to say no to a large order because we don't have the funds available. And the second thing, of course, is if you want to grow in the US and you need to invest in capital, in equipment, obviously you require funds as well. So those are the two principal reasons why we actually raised the capital.
Ivo, a big thanks for coming here and presenting to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.